Hi, I'm Erin from Fabricate, and today I'm going to teach you how to disassemble your feeder and put it back together. Now, this is for the Ultimaker 2 Plus series or Ultimaker 3 series printers. I'll be back another day to do a series on the Ultimaker S3 and the Ultimaker S5. So, you want to clean your feeders regularly as part of your maintenance. You especially want to be mindful about cleaning your feeders if you've recently had a case where you're air printing, because if your filament gets chewed up, that's when you're going to get the most debris in the feeder. I've got an example here. You don't want your feeder to look like this. You see what I mean? So, now we're going to go ahead and I will walk you through the process for taking it apart and putting it back together, because it's just as important to get it put back together correctly as it is to go ahead and take it apart in the first place. After all, if you put it back together wrong, you might as well not have bothered with cleaning it. So, you're going to need your 2mm hex head screwdriver or your 2mm Allen key, and we'll be all set to get started. The first thing you're going to do is remove the horseshoe-shaped clamp clip. It just slides straight out. On your Ultimaker 2 Plus series, it's blue. On your Ultimaker 3 series, it's white. Press down on the collet with 2 fingers. Simultaneously, pull up on the bowdoin tube. It's important to press the collet down while pulling up on the tube to release it. There's 1 screw at the bottom and 1 at the top. These hold your feeder to the printer. We're going to need to unscrew these screws in order to remove the feeder housing from the back of the printer. Right? Afterwards, it should just pop off. Oops, looks like I didn't quite unscrew the bottom one all the way. Let's try that again. Here we go. The next step is to adjust the tension indicator screw. If you don't adjust the tension indicator screw to the minimum tension, you're going to have pieces fly everywhere when you go to take it apart. Now, the tension indicator screw is accessed from the top of the feeder in this little hole here. Now, unscrew it and you should watch the tension indicator rise to the top of the feeder. Now, we should have the absolute minimum tension on it. Next, we're going to go ahead and remove the 4 screws that hold the 2 parts of the feeder housing together. There goes 1, 2, 3, 4. We'll carefully pry apart the 2 halves of the feeder housing. Now, even with the tension reduced, you might still lose something, so be careful when separating the 2 halves. So first we have our metal ring and the collet, which, as you can see, even though I was careful, fell out of place. Next is the lever, followed by the tension spring, and last, the tension indicator. Now this has a hex nut and a screw seated in it. This is how you adjust the tension. Now there's one more piece on the side of the feeder housing. This is a plastic spacer. If your feeder is solid and you don't have this spacer, that's nothing to worry about. It was an earlier version of the feeder, and so this was just a minor design change. On this side, you've got your giant gear. Because the gears usually have a little bit of green MagnaLube grease on it to help them move more smoothly, you might end up with filament debris stuck on the gear here. So it's important to take a look at it, and if necessary, clean it with a paper towel. Now we'll put your feeder back together. First things first, let's take the feeder lever and pop it over the post on the back half of the feeder. Easy enough. Take the spring, and there's a little indent for it right in the feeder arm, so pop that in place. Now here's the tricky bit. We're going to take the tension indicator with the screw and hex nut and position them over the spring. Told you it was a bit tricky. So press that inside the spring. Now the important thing is to make sure the head of the screw is on the inside of the feeder housing. If it's on the outside, you will not be able to adjust the tension. Take your spacer if you have it and pop that back into place. Follow it by your feeder ring. Next, take your collet, put that into position at the top, don't drop it like I did, and close the top half over. Now everything's lined up, and we'll go ahead and pop the screws back in place. Now we'll take the screwdriver and reset the tension back to the midpoint. Depending on where your screw is positioned in the hex nut, you might have to screw a little longer or a little shorter to get it back to the midpoint. Now don't screw too hard the wrong direction or you might break your indicator off. So watch and make sure that it is actually moving. All right, there we go. Looks like we're back at the midpoint. Now we're ready to install it back on the printer. While you have the feeder apart is a great time to clean and lubricate your gear on the back of the motor. Now if there's any filament debris on it, you're going to want to wipe that away first. Then put a small drop of Magnalube on the gear. It's important to help keep the two gears moving smoothly. Pop your feeder into place, make sure that the feeder lines up with the holes on the printer for it, and loosely put your screws in place. You don't want to press too hard with the screws right now because they're screwing into small threaded metal inserts that are stuck onto the back panel. If you push too hard against the insert before screwing and catching the threads, then you're going to accidentally push it through, and you're going to have to take the cable covers out to find it again. So go ahead, screw gently, and then make sure that they're firmly in place. Now pop your bowdoin tube back in the collet and slide your clamp clip between the collet and the feeder, right like this. You're all set.